Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Terran embassy, watching the artificial stars of the Galactic Consortium's capital world glitter below. Each light represented another genetically perfected species, another civilization that had evolved beyond their original form. Her hand unconsciously touched the small medallion at her neck, the DNA helix that marked her as one of the last unmodified humans in known space. "Commander, the Consortium Council is ready for you." Her aide, Marcus, was everything she wasn't. Enhanced reflexes, optimized intelligence, engineered beauty. Like 99% of humanity now. Sarah straightened her unaugmented shoulders. "Tell me again why they requested me specifically." They were quite insistent on having an unmodified human representative. Marcus's engineered features couldn't quite hide his discomfort. Something about genetic authenticity. The lift ride to the council chambers felt longer than usual. Sarah studied her reflection in the polished walls. Average height, typical Asian features, entirely ordinary by pre-enhancement standards, a relic, according to most. The last time she'd attended a consortium gathering, one of the Altarian delegates had asked if she was part of a living history exhibit. The council chamber doors parted with a whisper of advanced technology. Inside, representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in tiered rows, their forms ranging from crystalline to energy-based to things Sarah's unmodified brain could barely process. At the center, the High Counselor's silver-skinned form seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. "Commander Sarah Chen of Earth," the High Counselor's voice resonated perfectly. "The last unmodified human to hold a position of authority in your government." "How quaint." Sarah bit back a sharp reply. "I serve at Earth's discretion, Counselor. We still value diversity in all its forms." Diversity. The word rippled through the chamber like a wave of disapproval. Yet your own species rushes to embrace enhancement. Soon, natural humanity will be nothing but a memory. Is that why I'm here? To witness humanity's final surrender to uniformity? No. A new voice, deep and resonant, filled the chamber. Through the main doors strode a being Sarah had only seen in briefings, Emperor Callan of the Nexeri, their bodies living artwork of genetic perfection. "You are here because the future of all our species depends on your imperfection." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Sarah's unmodified heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I don't understand. The Nexeri Empire," Callan moved with liquid grace, "has achieved what many considered impossible. Complete genetic mastery. Every child born is perfect. Every citizen optimized. His perfect features twisted slightly. And we are dying." Silence fell like a physical weight. "Dying?" Sarah stepped forward. "How?" "Perfect genes, it seems, create perfect problems." Callan's laugh held no humor. "We've engineered ourselves into a corner. Each generation becomes more uniform, more sterile. We need genetic diversity. We need the randomness of natural selection. You need human DNA." Sarah realized. Unmodified human DNA. "We need more than that." Callan's eyes fixed on her. "We need you, Commander Chen, to marry my son, Prince Saren, to help create a future that embraces both enhancement and natural evolution." Sarah's unaugmented mind raced. "This is about more than marriage, isn't it? This is about power, about control." Perceptive for an unmodified. The High Counselor's tone dripped condescension. "The Nexeri Empire controls half the known galaxy. Their genetic technology is centuries ahead of other species. If they fall, everything falls," Sarah finished. "And Earth. What does my world get from this arrangement?" "Protection." Callan spread his perfect hands. "The consortium grows, uncomfortable with Earth's continuing acceptance of unmodified humans. Some suggest more direct methods of encouragement toward enhancement. Threats wrapped in diplomatic language. Sarah had spent enough time in politics to recognize them. "And if I refuse?" "Then we respect your choice." Callan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And Earth's position in the consortium becomes uncertain." Sarah looked around the chamber. at the engineered perfection of 1,000 species, and thought of Earth, still beautiful in its imperfection, still allowing its people to choose their own path of evolution. She thought of the children yet unborn, who deserved the right to be natural or enhanced by their own choice. "I'll need to contact Earth's government," she said finally, "and I want to meet Prince Zarin before making any decisions." Of course, Kalen's perfect features showed satisfaction. "Though I should warn you, my son can be unpredictable. Perhaps the only imperfect thing I ever created." As Sarah left the chamber, she caught fragments of conversations, whispers about humanity's barbaric nature, about the foolishness of trusting their primitive genes. But underneath it all, she sensed something else. Fear. These perfect beings feared what she represented: chaos, change, the messy process of natural evolution. Good, she thought. They should be afraid. Because humanity's greatest strength had never been perfection. It had been their ability to adapt, to change, to embrace the very chaos these beings sought to engineer away. In her quarters, Sarah removed the DNA helix medallion and studied it in the artificial starlight. Once a symbol of her status as a relic, now perhaps it would become something else, a symbol of hope for species that had engineered themselves into evolutionary dead ends. She placed a call to Earth's government, knowing that whatever came next would change not just her life, but the course of human and alien history. The question was, would it be a change for better or worse? The answer, she suspected, would depend on just how unpredictable Prince Zarin turned out to be. Prince Zarin's private laboratory looked nothing like the pristine halls of the Nexari Palace. Scattered datapads covered workbenches, and holographic DNA strands danced through the air in chaotic patterns. Sarah noticed something else too: imperfections, deliberate ones, in the asymmetrical arrangement of equipment and the notably natural plants growing in suspended animation fields. "So you're the unmodified human who's supposed to save our species." Zarin didn't turn from his workstation. His voice lacked the musical perfection of other Nexari, carrying instead a rough edge that marked him as different. "Father must be desperate." "Charming," Sarah replied. "Do you greet all your potential brides this way?" He turned then, and Sarah's breath caught. Where other Nexari displayed uniform beauty, Zarin's features held character. Slight asymmetry in his silver-tinted skin, eyes that shifted color like storm clouds. He was beautiful, but in a wild, unpredictable way that his species would consider flawed. "You're not what I expected," they said simultaneously, then shared a surprised laugh. "Let me guess." Zarin moved closer, studying her with genuine curiosity. "You expected another perfect Nexari prince, engineered to the highest specifications. And you expected a primitive human barely capable of interstellar diplomacy." "Guilty." His smile transformed his face. "Though I should know better. I've spent years studying natural genetics. The complexity, the beautiful chaos of unmodified DNA." He gestured to the swirling holograms. "This is what we lost in our quest for perfection." Sarah walked through the holographic displays, watching genetic codes merge and separate. "Your father said you were unpredictable. He didn't mention you were a researcher." "Researcher, disappointment, failed genetic experiment. Depends on who you ask." Zarin waved his hand, and the hologram shifted to show Nexari DNA sequences. "Look at this. Each generation, more uniform, more stable, more dead. We're not just losing fertility. We're losing the ability to adapt. And you think human DNA is the solution? I think natural selection is the solution." He pulled up another hologram, human genetic sequences, beautiful in their complexity. "Look at the variation, the potential for adaptation. This is what life is supposed to be. Yet most humans choose enhancement now." Sarah noted. "Choice is the key word." Zarin's expression darkened. "The consortium. They're pushing for mandatory enhancement. All species, all worlds. They call it the Final Evolution Initiative." Sarah felt cold. That's why your father arranged this marriage. Political alliance against the consortium. Partly. Zarin shut down the holograms. But there's more. The consortium isn't just seeking uniformity. They're seeking control. Standardized genes mean standardized weaknesses, predictable responses. A galaxy of perfect slaves. And Earth, where do we fit in their plans? Earth is dangerous to them. Zarin's eyes met hers. Your planet still allows natural births, unmodified genetics. You're proof that advancement doesn't require genetic perfection. That makes you a threat. Sarah thought of the condescending looks in the council chamber, the barely veiled threats. So this marriage gives Earth protection through the Nexari Empire, gives us access to natural human genetics to save our species, and creates a power block against the consortium's final evolution initiative. Zarin spread his hands. Simple, really. Nothing about this is simple. Sarah touched her DNA helix medallion. Your father didn't tell you everything, did he? Zarin's expression shifted. What do you mean? The consortium called me here before contacting your father. They wanted Earth's cooperation in something big. Something they called Project Unity. She met his stormy eyes. I'm betting it's connected to your final evolution initiative. They approached you directly. Zarin's voice sharpened. When? 2 days ago. That's why I was already here when your father made his proposal. Zarin cursed in several languages. We need to move faster then. Father thinks we have months before the consortium acts. If they're already making moves. A chime interrupted them. The laboratory's entrance dissolved, revealing Emperor Kalen in all his perfect glory. I see you two are getting acquainted. Sarah noticed how Zarin subtly shifted, placing himself between her and his father. Interesting. Commander Chen. Kalen's voice carried absolute authority. Have you considered our proposal? Sarah glanced at Zarin, saw the warning in his eyes. I have questions first. About Project Unity, the final evolution initiative, and exactly what role Earth is expected to play in all this. Kalen's perfect features showed no reaction, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Some matters are best discussed privately. Son, leave us. No. Zarin's voice matched his father's in authority. If she's to be my wife, she has a right to know everything. Everything. Kalen's laugh held no humor. Very well. Let me tell you everything, Commander Chen, about the true price of remaining human in a post-human galaxy. The laboratory doors sealed behind him with an ominous hiss. The consortium doesn't want to standardize genetics. Emperor Kalen's perfect voice filled the laboratory. They want to weaponize them. Sarah felt Zarin tense beside her as his father continued. Project Unity isn't about evolution. It's about control. Imagine an entire galaxy of beings with precisely engineered genetic locks. One command sequence could shut down vital functions across billions of worlds. That's genocide, Sarah whispered. That's power. Kalen's eyes gleamed. Power the consortium plans to take for themselves. Unless the Nexari Empire gets there first. Zarin's voice carried bitter understanding. That's why you really want human DNA. Not to save our species, to create a weapon. To create a defense, Kalen corrected. Natural human genetics are chaos incarnate, the perfect key to unlocking the consortium's carefully engineered prison. With your DNA, Commander Chen, we could ensure no one species controls the galaxy's genetic future. Sarah's mind raced. And Earth. What happens to my world in this genetic arms race? That depends on you. Kalen spread his perfect hands. Marry my son. Give us access to your genetics. Earth becomes part of the Empire, protected from both the consortium and other interested parties. And if I refuse, then Earth stands alone when Project Unity begins. How long do you think your world of genetic rebels will last? Sarah felt something brush her hand. Zarin's fingers, intentionally imperfect, intertwining with hers. Support? Warning? Both. You have one planetary rotation to decide, Callan announced. Choose wisely, Commander. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and son, your laboratory's security protocols need updating. I've known about your resistance contacts for months. The door sealed behind him, leaving Sarah and Zarin in charged silence. He's lying, Zarin said finally. Not about Project Unity. That's real. But about using human DNA as a weapon. There's something else he's not telling us. Sarah squeezed his hand. Your resistance contacts. Are they safe? Scattered across 1,000 worlds. Natural-born beings, modified ones who regret enhancement, scientists who oppose genetic standardization. His stormy eyes met hers. We call ourselves the Genome Liberation Front. Dramatic name. Says the woman wearing a DNA helix as jewelry. His smile faded. We need to get you off this station. Now. Before my father or the consortium decides waiting for your answer is too risky. Running won't solve anything. Sarah touched her medallion. Your father's right about one thing. Earth can't stand alone against Project Unity. We need allies. You're suggesting. I'm suggesting we give them exactly what they want. A marriage, a political alliance. Access to human genetics. She smiled grimly. Just not the way they expect. Zarin studied her face. You have a plan. I have the beginning of one, but I'll need help from your resistance friends. And, she hesitated, I'll need to know if I can trust you. Really trust you. You can't. His honesty surprised her. You've known me less than a day. We're caught between galactic powers planning genetic warfare, and I'm the son of a man who wants to weaponize your DNA. Trusting me would be insane. Good answer. Sarah activated her communicator. Marcus, remember that package I asked you to prepare. Bring it to the Prince's laboratory. Now. Commander, Zarin's voice held warning. What are you doing? Something insane. She met his eyes. I'm trusting you with Earth's future. Marcus arrived moments later, carrying a sealed container. Inside was a single vial of blood. Sarah's blood, drawn hours before meeting the Emperor. Unmodified human DNA, she explained. Enough for preliminary analysis. Show me what the consortium and your father are really planning. Why they're so afraid of natural genetics. Zarin's hands trembled slightly as he placed the vial in his sequencer. Holographic displays erupted around them, showing the intricate dance of Sarah's genes. This is impossible, he whispered after several minutes. These patterns, they're not just random variation. There's something embedded in natural human DNA. Something like. Like what? Like a key. His eyes were wide. Or a virus. Something that could unravel carefully engineered genetic sequences. Something that could undo centuries of enhancement across every species. A genetic reset button. Sarah realized. Hidden in humanity's natural code all along. Which means the consortium's Project Unity isn't just about control. Zarin's voice was grim. It's about survival. They want to eliminate natural human DNA before it can undo everything they've built. Sarah's communicator chimed, an urgent message from Earth. As she read it, her face paled. What is it? The consortium just announced new regulations. All remaining unmodified humans are to report for mandatory genetic screening within one planetary rotation. She looked up. It's already beginning. Zarin's laboratory suddenly felt very small, caught between the perfect power of the consortium and the deadly ambition of his father's empire. Still want to marry me? He asked, attempting humor. More than ever. Sarah's voice was steel. Because now we have proof. Natural humanity isn't a threat because we're primitive. We're a threat because we're the antidote to their perfect prison. And my father? We let him think he's winning. Let both sides think they're in control. She smiled grimly, while we gather our imperfect allies and prepare for the real fight. The genetic sequences danced between them, holding secrets that could reshape the galaxy. The question was, who would control that reshaping? The perfect or the flawed? The engineered or the natural? The answer, Sarah knew, would depend on what she and Zarin did next. The Genome Liberation Front's secret base defied everything Sarah expected from advanced alien architecture. Hidden in an asteroid belt, its corridors curved organically, its walls pulsed with bioluminescent life. Like its inhabitants, the structure celebrated imperfection. "Welcome to Haven," Zarin announced as they entered the central chamber, where being flawed is considered a feature, not a bug. Around them gathered the most diverse group Sarah had ever seen. Beings from across the galaxy who had rejected enhancement or reversed their modifications. A crystalline Altarian with naturally occurring fractures. A Verdani whose photosynthetic skin showed irregular patterns. Even a handful of unmodified humans, their eyes lighting up at the sight of her DNA helix medallion. "The resistance grows larger every day," explained Dr. Lyra, a former consortium genetic engineer whose silver skin bore natural aging patterns, as more enhanced beings realize the price of perfection. Sterility, loss of adaptability, emotional dampening, Zarin listed. "But that's not even the worst of it. Show them what we found, Doctor." Lyra activated a holographic display. "This is enhanced Nexeri DNA after exposure to Commander Chen's genetic samples. Watch." The engineered sequences began to unravel, reverting to more natural patterns. "Natural human DNA doesn't just resist enhancement," Lyra explained. "It actively undoes it, like a genetic reset switch, returning modified sequences to their original state." The Genome Liberation Front's secret base defied everything Sarah expected from advanced alien architecture. Hidden in an asteroid belt, its corridors curved organically, its walls pulsed with bioluminescent life. Like its inhabitants, the structure celebrated imperfection. "Welcome to Haven," Zarin announced as they entered the central chamber, where being flawed is considered a feature, not a bug. Around them gathered the most diverse group Sarah had ever seen, beings from across the galaxy who had rejected enhancement or reversed their modifications. A crystalline Altarian with naturally occurring fractures. A Verdani whose photosynthetic skin showed irregular patterns. Even a handful of unmodified humans, their eyes lighting up at the sight of her DNA helix medallion. "The resistance grows larger every day," explained Dr. Lyra, a former consortium genetic engineer whose silver skin bore natural aging patterns, as more enhanced beings realize the price of perfection. Sterility, loss of adaptability, emotional dampening, Zarin listed. "But that's not even the worst of it. Show them what we found, Doctor." Lyra activated a holographic display. "This is enhanced Nexeri DNA after exposure to Commander Chen's genetic samples. Watch." The engineered sequences began to unravel, reverting to more natural patterns. "Natural human DNA doesn't just resist enhancement," Lyra explained. "It actively undoes it, like a genetic reset switch, returning modified sequences to their original state. That's why the consortium fears us," Sarah realized. One unmodified human could undo generations of their precious genetic engineering. More than that. Zarin pulled up another display. The Project Unity specifications they'd stolen. The consortium's plan isn't just control through standardized genetics. They're building a genetic kill switch. One command could eliminate any being with natural DNA. The chamber erupted in angry murmurs. "But it works both ways," Sarah stood, addressing the gathered rebels. "My DNA proves natural genetics can undo their modifications. If we could distribute this capability across enough worlds, we could give everyone the choice," Zarin finished. "Enhanced or natural. Their choice, not the consortium's." "A noble goal," a new voice rang out. Emperor Callan stepped through a suddenly appearing portal, flanked by consortium guards. "But ultimately futile." Sarah's hand found Zarin's as chaos erupted. Haven's defenses activated, organic walls sealing passages. "Did you really think I wouldn't track my own son?" Kalen's perfect features showed disappointment. "That I wouldn't know about his little rebellion?" How long? Zaren's voice was tight. Since the beginning. I needed you to find them, to gather all the genetic deviants in one place. Kalen's smile was beautiful and terrible. The consortium gets their test subjects for Project Unity, and I get the power to undo their work whenever I choose. Everyone wins. Except those who want to remain natural. Sarah stepped forward. Those who believe diversity makes us stronger. Diversity is chaos, Kalen declared, and chaos must be controlled. You're wrong. Sarah removed her medallion, held it up. Chaos is life. Evolution. The power to choose our own path. She smiled. And you just made a serious mistake. Oh, you assumed this was just jewelry. She crushed the medallion. A wave of genetic data burst forth, flooding Haven's biological systems. The walls rippled, changed. What have you done? Kalen demanded as his perfect form began to shimmer. Insurance policy, Sarah explained. Concentrated natural human DNA, modified to spread through biological systems. Right now, it's racing through Haven's organic architecture, through your guards' enhanced bodies, through your own perfect genes. It's not destroying the enhancements, Zaren realized, watching the changes. It's giving them choice. The ability to turn modifications on or off at will. Free will. Sarah nodded. The one thing the consortium and your father feared more than natural genetics. Kalen staggered as his perfect form flickered between enhanced and natural states. You'll doom us all. Without genetic control. Without control, we have choice, Sarah countered. The choice to be perfect or flawed, enhanced or natural. The choice to evolve on our own terms. Around them, Haven's inhabitants watched in awe as the wave of change spread. Guards dropped their weapons, experiencing true emotion for the first time in generations. The very walls seemed to breathe with new life. It's transmitting, Lyra announced, checking readings, through subspace channels, through trade routes. Anywhere beings have been enhanced. They're being given back their choice, Zaren finished. He turned to Sarah. You planned this from the start. Earth's government did. We've known about natural DNA's properties for years. We just needed the right moment, the right allies. She squeezed his hand. The right partner. It won't be easy, he warned. The consortium won't accept this. Neither will my father's empire. Giving people choice means accepting chaos, uncertainty. It means accepting life, Sarah corrected, in all its beautiful, imperfect glory. As alarms blared and the galaxy began to change, Sarah looked at the gathered rebels, natural and enhanced, perfect and flawed, all choosing their own paths for the first time in centuries. The real revolution, she realized, wasn't about genetics at all. It was about the right to choose who and what you wanted to be. The right to be imperfect in a perfect universe. And that was a revolution worth fighting for. 3 months after what historians would later call the choice wave, Sarah stood before the reformed Galactic Council. The chamber looked different now. Gone were the perfect symmetries and engineered aesthetics. Like its occupants, the room had embraced diversity. The numbers are clear, she addressed the assembled representatives. 80% of enhanced beings have chosen to retain some modifications while restoring natural genetic functions. 15% have fully reverted to their natural states. 5% maintain complete enhancement. Choice, rumbled a Verdani delegate, their vegetation showing both engineered and natural patterns. Who would have thought such a simple concept could reshape the galaxy? Not reshape, Zaren corrected, standing beside Sarah. Restore. We're becoming what we were always meant to be. Beings of infinite variety. The former Emperor Kalen, now bearing proud signs of natural aging alongside his silver skin, shifted in his seat. And the cost? Chaos. Unpredictability. Species diverging in thousands of directions. That's not a cost, Sarah countered. That's evolution. Real evolution, not the artificial path the consortium tried to force. The chamber's displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. Children born with both natural and enhanced traits, species rediscovering their original characteristics while keeping beneficial modifications, new forms of art and architecture celebrating the merger of organic and engineered beauty. The choice wave didn't just free us from genetic control, Sarah continued. It freed us from the idea that perfection means uniformity. That advancement requires abandoning our natural selves. And what of Project Unity? Asked a former consortium scientist, their perfect features now bearing subtle marks of individuality. The genetic kill switch. Neutralize, Zarin confirmed. The same properties that let natural human DNA undo enhancement made it impossible to implement standardized genetic controls. No one species will ever have that power again. Which leaves us with a question. Sarah faced the council. What now? How do we govern a galaxy where every being can choose their own path of evolution? Silence fell as the implications sank in. The old power structures, built on genetic conformity and engineered castes, were gone. Something new had to take their place. Perhaps, Zarin suggested, we start by accepting that governance, like evolution, works best with diversity. Not one path, but many. Not control, but cooperation. A genetic rights charter, proposed Dr. Lyra, now a council member, guaranteeing every being's right to choose their level of enhancement or natural state, protecting both modified and unmodified forms of life. And marriages, asked a crystalline delegate, their structure showing beautiful natural flaws. Like yours. Sarah and Zarin exchanged glances. Their wedding, held in Haven's organic cathedral, had become a symbol of the new order, a union of natural and enhanced, of choice and change. Our marriage proves what humanity has always known. Sarah smiled. That love, like evolution, cares nothing for perfection. It thrives on differences, on the unique combinations that arise when we're free to be ourselves. Pretty words, Callan noted, but his tone held no bitterness. Yet you've unleashed forces we can't control. New forms of enhancement. Species choosing radical natural mutations. The galaxy will never be the same. Good, Sarah and Zarin said together. Because the same was killing us. Zarin continued. The same was making us sterile, stagnant, unable to adapt. We needed chaos. Controlled chaos. Chosen chaos. But chaos nonetheless. And this is only the beginning, Sarah added. Imagine what will become now that we're free to evolve in all directions. Natural, enhanced, and combinations we haven't even dreamed of yet. The council chamber's organic walls pulsed with new patterns, reflecting the changed hearts of its occupants. Through the viewport, stars shone on a galaxy transforming itself one choice at a time. There will be challenges, Sarah acknowledged. Conflicts between different evolutionary paths. Societies struggling to adapt to true diversity. But for the first time in centuries, we face those challenges as ourselves, not as engineered copies of someone else's idea of perfection. And that, Zarin concluded, taking her hand, is the true price of humanity. Not the cost of remaining natural, but the courage to let everyone choose their own path, to be perfectly imperfect, each in our own way. As the council began debating the details of the new charter, Sarah touched her throat where the DNA helix medallion once hung. She didn't need it anymore. The real symbol of humanity's gift to the galaxy was all around them, in the faces showing both enhancement and natural features, in the architecture blending organic and engineered forms, in the very air humming with the energy of unlimited possibility. The price of humanity, it turned out, was freedom. The freedom to be flawed, to be different, to be yourself in a universe of infinite choices. And that was a price worth paying.